As I'm sitting here now doing this video with you, I feel really annoyed and frustrated, and it's not a good state to be in when actually discussing something. Let me get into this specific video, which I said I would cover with you after the last one, which was based on load shedding, which we experienced earlier today from 12 o'clock till 2 o'clock, and that is airborne viruses and what it means for the virus to be airborne. You know, our government uses so many things in such a loose way, and they actually have no scientific basis on which they say these things, because they're not scientists. They don't actually know what they're talking about. So they use what professionals tell them, and they try and put it across in political speak, as well as with the very ideologies of their puppet masters. Remember, those ideologies needs to be met, and a good crisis is a very good way for them to be able to implement all of their ideologies. So as a good puppet master, our President Cyril Ramaphosa last night announced many things that frustrated many people. And one of the things that he said is that masks will now be mandatory, not explaining what that actually means. And in the follow-up video tonight, I will explain to you with regards to the High Court judgment of Judge Norman Davis, what these regulations that President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced, what it means with regards to that court judgment. And that is crucial, so you can look forward to that video next. But let's get to airborne viruses. The first thing I need to explain to you is a virus is dead. It's not alive, okay? There's lots of scientific debate about whether a virus is actually alive, but currently, if it's not a single cellular organism, it is not alive. So a virus is not alive. It's either viable or it's non-viable, which means the virus can still do something if it goes into a cell, or it's not able to do anything. And as far as we know at this stage, based on what has been said by scientists, this virus does not do well in heat. So in very hot places, the virus should only survive in cooler areas and under very specific conditions. But if you give a lot of heat to this virus, its viability disappears very, very quickly. So when it becomes summer, things should be better with regards to this virus. But now there's this, you know, just to stoke fear, they have to come and rehash something that has been a question in February and March already. Is this virus airborne? Now, any virus that's in your body, okay, that can enter a drop of spit can become airborne, because you can spit it out, literally, okay? So it's a very mechanical thing. That virus needs some fluid or something to travel in. So there's no millions of viruses just flying around in the air, unless it's on a piece of dust, because it can certainly fit on a piece of dust, or something that can make it travel around, okay? Because they are so very small, especially this RNA type virus is extremely small, so small that when it's in liquid, suspended in liquid, it can actually travel through porcelain, which means that you can filter it out using porcelain. So there's very few masks on the market that if you don't have a solid face shield or something protecting you, that's going to stop this virus. It won't, okay? It could stop whatever the medium is that the virus travels in. And one of the questions that are being asked now is whether the airborne factor has been underestimated with regards to the transfer of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Now, this is a valid question to ask, because when you're spitting out larger droplets, they fall to the ground. Typically, they'll fly a certain distance, especially if you sneeze. The sneeze comes out at over 100 kilometers an hour, and you can actually send those excretions flying a couple of meters. But does it stay suspended in the air? No, most of that falls to the ground. But when you cough and sneeze, there's smaller particles that can stay suspended in the air. Okay, they're smaller, you don't see them easily, you would need a very strong light. And it's those particles that's in question. Now the question is, can you have enough viral load in any one of those droplets to actually infect you? And this is where I want to make things very clear. And this is simple science. for you to be able to become infected, you can get one of those very small droplets, okay, that can be suspended in the air, and that can obviously travel long distances, okay? So it's not about 2 meters or 3 meters or 4 meters. That can travel, well, for as long as that little droplet survives, okay, and is suspended in the air. If that hits my nasal cavity or my mouth, for instance, then the question is the viral load in that small little droplet enough to infect me? In other words, when that droplet hits my mouth and they do a test to see if I'm SARS-CoV-2 positive, that test will show that I'm negative. But I've just had a couple of thousand, for instance, of this virus enter my body. What this virus needs to do is have time to duplicate within your body without your body attacking it and sorting it out. That is what our immune system is designed and supposed to do. Then it's supposed to attach to your cells and start duplicating. Once it starts to replicate itself, it can get to a stage where the viral load in your body becomes so big that when you do a test for the SARS-CoV-2 virus, wherever that test is done, your body is now riddled with this virus. It's everywhere, literally, and your immune system is attacking it or fighting it. And then you will test positive. So the first point I want to make is that you could actually have the virus enter your body without being able to be tested positive. The viral load in your body needs to increase before a positive test result can happen. Once you test it positive, it still doesn't mean that you've developed the disease caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So you don't know whether you'll develop COVID-19. Now, the president last night in his speech said that people that have hypertension and diabetes are more likely of contracting the disease. And that would be 100% correct. My daughter, who is an emergency medical practitioner, has verified that at hospital, many of the people have got some comorbidity like hypertension or diabetes, as well as AIDS patients that end up dying when they develop complications due to the disease developing and being SARS-CoV-2 positive. So, saying that a virus is just airborne means nothing if you don't put it into context, okay? So, you need a lot of the virus for your body to become infected. So many of us could have actually come into contact with the virus without being infected fully. This is very possible. And if you don't become infectious, in other words, you're actually building up so much of the virus within your body that you can infect other people, then there's no threat whatsoever. But the president has made masks mandatory, and this is the big elephant in the room. The reason why he's done this is because he claims, I don't know, based on what he wants or based on what the professionals have told him, that these masks will stop you from spitting out anything with a viral load in it that could contaminate other people. And scientifically, this would be correct with regards to the droplets. But the virus can certainly pass through most of the masks that he says that people should use. And he has said that it can be a t-shirt, a scarf, or many other things, any cloth type mask or barrier in front of your mouth and nose. The problem is that they've made this mandatory, and in fact, one of the articles that I'm looking at right now, it says, decision to criminalize the non-wearing of masks, not an easy one, Lamola says. And this is where I start getting a severe problem. Saying that what they recommend people do is one thing. Forcing people to do something is a very, very different thing. And you need a solid scientific basis for this. And this I will cover in my next video, where I will cover Judge Norman Davis and his findings and how this affects the regulations with regards to what Ramaphosa has announced. And I'm sure many of you will look forward to that video. Just understand that a virus that is airborne needs to be carried on something. The other thing that we need to understand is how many people have actually died. In other words, what is the threat of this virus and how much does it affect the population? What is the risk of death versus carrying on with our normal economy. And each and every person has to decide what risks they are willing to take. And this is plain and simple. Now, I can understand when you're amongst other people that if someone is afraid that you're going to contaminate them. My grandmother on my father's side was like that. She was a germaphobe. She would stand at the washing and actually watch it dry. That's her right to do that. It's my right to think she's crazy. But you cannot take someone else's right away to want to feel protected from you. So I take a mask with me in public when I walk outside. I would take a mask with me, and if there's people around, I would put the mask on, because I cannot see how I can infect someone else by just walking around in a park outside wearing a mask. Our government has now made it compulsory the moment you leave your house to wear a mask. And this is criminal in my opinion. It's unconstitutional. I don't think at all that it's based on what the court has found, and I will get to that in the next video. So, just remember that when something is airborne, or they speak of an airborne virus, that it doesn't mean that it's flying around everywhere. This is not the case. You still need a human to transmit it, so you need to be in the presence of humans. Now, when President Cyril Ramaphosa speaks of taxis and people sitting in close proximity to each other, all wearing masks, you can still contaminate the whole world like that. So none of these premises make any sense whatsoever. And it's important to understand that once you wear a mask and you don't do it correctly, you can spread the virus even more. If you weren't touching your face, the chances of contracting the virus is very slim if you're not in contact with other people or in close proximity to someone else that's spitting or coughing or speaking with spit flying out of their mouths. But when you actually have a mask and you keep on touching it all the time and bringing it close to your face, in close proximity to your face, and you haven't been trained now to put it on and remove it properly, because it actually takes training to do it the right way, the chances of you contaminating yourself increases exponentially. And this is not something I'm making up. There are extensive studies on this. Certainly within the nuclear industry, you needed to know how to put any clothes to prevent contamination, how to put it on, and how to remove it safely. And you need special training in that. And then that clothing needed to be cleaned in very specific ways. Now, letting the public loose out there, putting on mask, any kind of mask, in any kind of way, with no regulations with how it's done, and washing of hands only, is not going to save the situation. And there's countries where people have not made masks mandatory, where people have had huge success. There's also countries where they claim that wearing a mask initially, when the outbreak started, actually saved them from having a large spike in the pandemic. So at the end of the day, it's up to any individual to decide what they want to do. I believe you need to respect other people around you. So when I'm around other people, I will put a mask on to respect them and make sure that they don't feel threatened. If anyone is happy with me not to wear a mask around them, then I will not wear a mask around them, because that is just the natural way that I want to be able to breathe without rebreathing in my own exhale, which is not healthy at all. So the whole mask situation and the fact that they're forcing us to wear masks now is a problem, and I believe there will be a court case on this very, very soon. And just remember, for a court to actually make a decision on something like this is very difficult, because this is a scientific thing. So once again, it would have to be a constitutional issue. You have to look at the Bill of Rights. And I can't see any court judge at this stage finding against something like that from government. Remember, because of what government had to do now, because of what Judge Norman Davis allowed them to actually appeal, they have lashed back at us in ways to literally force us now to wear masks, where you can get a criminal record for not wearing a mask outside your house. That means in a car or anywhere, you must wear a mask. So this is an extreme measure. This is not a small thing. In my next video, I'll expand on that some more when I speak about the judgment with regards to Judge Norman Davis and his findings and how that impacts what the President said last night. And you're not going to be very happy with what I have to say. Thank you very much. Please subscribe to this channel. click the bell icon to get notifications. There's many important things happening right now, and we need to move fast as the public to reclaim our rights and remove this government as a matter of urgency. I thank you.